it's Carrie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing card number 3 in my holiday card series for 2017. Today I'm going to be doing a set of cards for you so you could get some ideas for doing some mass production. And I'm going to be using some stamp sets from Right at Home, this one here, and then this also one that I showed you. It's called Christmas Foliage, but I did not wind up using it. And I'm also going to be using the background stamp from Concord and the PLAID background. So I'm going to be doing several different variations. I'm going to be doing 5 cards in total. I'm going to do very different variations in these cards, and so I wanted to show you just a few of them. It's all basically the same as far as the stamping and all that, so I'm going to show you like the first few steps of each step that I'm doing, and then I'll show you how I'm going to be putting the cards together. This is a fairly simple design in each card, but that's what you want whenever you do mass production. You don't want something too complicated, because obviously if you're making several different cards at a time, whether it be 5, 10, 30, 50, doesn't matter how many that you make, you want to keep the design very simple, as you obviously are making quite a bit of cards. So you don't want them to take too much time on each step. So obviously I'm having to do the stamping a couple of different times on this background. It is a bigger background, and I want to make sure that I'm getting a really good impression. That's where the Misty comes in handy. See, I'm having to stamp this down a third time. So that's where the Misty comes, comes to the rescue on things like this, because if you were to use just a regular block, which, I don't know what we did before the Misty, or, a stamp positioning tool. I really don't know, because I guess you just have to line it up really well as much as you can, I guess. But thankfully we do have the Misty in the stamping world now, and I am loving every time I get to use it for things like this especially. So I have done I believe 2 gray backgrounds. I've got a green background and a couple of red ones, but the difference is the variation in them is the color of cardstock that I'm using. I've got white, I've got cream, which is Vintage Cream from Papertrey ink. The white is my Stamper Select white, and then I have Kraft also from Papertrey ink. So I wanted to get a different look from especially from the cardstock as well, and I absolutely love the ones on Kraft. It gives it that little bit of old-fashioned Christmassy classic feel, I guess, if you will. So, and I love the red on the Kraft. It's really, really nice. So, like I said, I wanted to get a variation of different ones on different colored cardstocks. So I did all of my stamping of all 5 cards, and now I'm going to be doing some embossing on some of them with the other stamp that is on this background stamp set. It comes with this 2-line background stamp that you can add to this PLAID background. And it's really, really cool. You can use it or you don't have to. It's up to you. And one of the cards I didn't use it with, so, just give it a little bit of something different. But I am preparing my first piece here with my anti-static powder tool. And then I'm going to be using my Versamark ink to line up with each, stripe area, if you will. And then I'm going to coat this particular one in silver embossing powder. And then making sure that I get that good and covered on end to end as much as I can, and then I'm going to heat set this with my heat tool, and it just gives it that little extra something instead of just stamping. Now some of these I did just stamp down with just regular ink, and it looks good too, but it's also fun to add, whether you can add embossing powder like I did, the metallic, or you can have, if you have glitter embossing powder, it would really look even that much more beautiful. So I'm going to show you all the variations that I did. I did this one, the gray with the teal background. This one I just stamped the background. This one I have the green with the red embossing powder. It's it adds just a little extra something to it. This one I just went one direction with the gold embossing powder or brass, and then this one I went both directions with the silver. So those are the different ones that I created. Now I'm going to create my sentiments onto these pieces of cardstock that are coordinating with the background that I use, the same cardstock that I used. And these tags come from the Pretty Pink Posh tag set. I absolutely love this. Is one of my favorite dies from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to be using this stamp set here from Right at Home. It's an absolutely lovely sentiment stamp set. It's called Peace, Love, Joy. And I'm going to be using all 5 sentiments in this set. And so once I get this pulled out, I'm going to decide on which ones that I want to lay out. So that way, all I got to do is just take the sentiments, put them onto my acrylic block, and then just stamp them down on each one. And I will be embossing, I believe, no, not all embossing. I was going to emboss all of them, but if I have embossing on the backgrounds, then I will emboss the sentiment. So, and like I said, this doesn't take any time at all, but whenever you do mass production, you want to do your mass production in steps. So I did all of my stamping, then I did all of my embossing of my background, then I did all of my die cutting of my tags here. Now I'm going to set my sentiment strips or sentiments onto my tags here and get them all in place on which ones I want to use them on. And then I'm going to stamp them all down onto their tags. Now if I am embossing them, I want to go ahead and get them embossed so that that doesn't take any extra time at all. But I'm going to go ahead and do this one here, and I'll show you how this one turns out. And I am using the red embossing powder on this one since I used it on the background. And as you can see, this embossing powder is from Wow. It's a really vibrant red whenever you initially put it onto your cardstock, but whenever you set it down, it kind of, I guess, darkens it a little bit, and it doesn't leave it as bright. But on this Kraft, it's a little bit brighter since it's just on the Kraft and not straight on the green. I think that's why it turned it a little bit darker on the green. But it looks really nice, and it's super simple, but it also looks elegant too. So I'm just going to put my powder back into my container, making sure that I don't dump it, because knowing me, I'm clumsy sometimes, and that will happen. So anyway, so I'm going to move on to my next one that has embossing on it, get those all out of the way. And so I went ahead and completed all of my stamping onto my tags here. And now I'm going to add, I had already added off camera, since that took a little bit of time, some foam adhesive onto each one of these just to pop them up and give them a little extra dimension, since this is a more simple in design. I added some foam adhesive on the back there, and it just adds just a little bit of something. It doesn't add too much bulk, because if you wanted to mail these, you could easily do that, and it wouldn't add too much to it, just enough so it would just make it a little bit more pleasing to the eye, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on to take off all of my paper backings on this. And as you notice, a lot of this video, if not all of it, is in real time. I did not speed up the video because I wanted to show you guys each step as I went along and not really speed it up. Which I was really tempted to do that, because that's normally what I do with my videos, because I don't want them to be extremely long each and every video. But for this one, I wanted to keep it in real time so you could see each step that I was doing. So now I'm going to go ahead and prep my card bases. Again, I have the same color cardstock for each of the cards that I'm going to be putting with each of their card panels here. So I'm just going to make them top fold cards, because that's one of my favorites. I like to do top fold cards a lot. And so I'm going to score these at 5.5, and that's going to create an A2 size card. And I'm going to be using my Tombow Mono Glue here, just to put some glue on the back of this panel, and it will allow me to put these onto my card bases and move them around and adjust them however I need to get them lined up perfectly onto the card base. So I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to show you a few of these here as I put them into place. And you can see it just turns into a really simple card, but nice at the same time, especially if the ones that have the embossing background, it just gives it that little extra shine, to the card. So really, really fun, really nice. And I won't lie, these cards did take me a little time to do, even just 5 cards, but I was kind of planning them out ahead of time. So if you already know in advance kind of how you're going to go with your design, it probably won't take you as long as I did. But obviously there's a lot of steps in between, and that's what takes me a little bit longer, because obviously I've got to do all the die cutting and all the stamping and everything, and I didn't know exactly how I want my design to go. So I've got the last one here all placed onto its card base, so I'm just going to show you all the final product here. So Oh, I gotta replace my cap on my glue there. So anyway, so I've got the teal and gray one here. That one says Holiday Blessings. Then we've got the Deck the Halls with the red embossing, really nice. Then I've got the one with just the red, really like that one too. Celebrate the Season with the silver embossing, and then the Peace, Love, and Joy with the brass embossing. So that completes my cards for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed and get an idea for mass production with your holiday cards this year. Thank you guys so much for watching. All the supplies will be listed and linked below the video as always, and I will catch you on my next video. Thanks for watching.